Alright, I want to talk about options and the options menu and the different things that you can get out of it in your like day-to-day life. There's a lot of quality of life things in the options menu that I think a lot of people just kind of glance over or miss or don't actually mess around with. And so I just want to go over a few of those things in kind of a quicker sort of video. We'll see how it actually ends up. And I'll also talk a little bit about UI, I think, in this video as well. So again, there's the regular normal options that you guys see. There's some things that I talked about in other videos as well. I'm going to try not to overlap it too much. The things I want to talk about today have to do with the game settings specifically. I know like camera mode and things are very interesting, and you should definitely play around with them. And there's some other things that I'm probably going to skip over. But today I want to focus at least on the game settings here, as well as like maybe a little bit of the key bindings that you can do. So there's tons of things you can do for quality of life to help you, okay? Now, I'll just go, top to bottom here. So name info is a big one, all right? And I don't actually unset any of these, but during combat, especially in PvP, there's a lot of different names all over the place, and depending on how you actually have your name settings, which you can change up here or change by, I think, pressing Control V? No, that's not it. I've unbound those. But if you change these things at the top, it'll change what the names above people look like, okay? So now it says my faction underneath instead of my guild. If I go back, I can change it to vocation, which is family name underneath the guild. And here's the one that most people use. Yeah, Control V is default. I've changed it to something else. So this is the one that most people use, is the box, right? This is nice in a raid versus raid because you can very quickly, at a glance, see health bars, whereas the other versions, the one that I like generally, don't have that sort of thing. Now, in addition to all of this, you can actually unset names from appearing at all, which means in PvP, if you don't want to see your summons up, or you don't want to see enemy summons up, I think it's this one, right? Friendly summons, enemy summons. That way, if there's pets out, you actually don't see their name and you won't get confused with them, right? You'll actually make sure you're still clicking on enemy targets. So this is something you can actually do for yourself to make things a little bit easier to see in combat. And, usually you would do something like this for PvP, that sort of thing, right? You can also change what actually shows right underneath your name by, I believe, the basic section or something. Most people just generally pick either guild name or faction name, depending on what they're doing, right? Okay, so that's kind of it for name information. Game information is a lot more exciting. So let me just set my options there. All right, game information is a lot of stuff, okay? And like by default, this is what it looks like. It looks like this and this. This is what it looks like by default, something like that, okay? Which I think it's like this. This is the default menu, okay? Now, anytime I start up a new character, you'll notice the first thing I do is I log in and I immediately check mark everything, because this is actually a really, really important thing, okay? If you go by default here, I'm going to close tutorial and then do this. If I go by default here, this is nice, but you don't really get too much information, okay? You're kind of stuck without a lot of info. You won't have anything in your combat log. This is something we talked about in the combat log video. You can look at that highlight. So what I do is I'll just kind of go through the list here, right? Health stats and mana stats. They just show up in everybody's bar. You can see it at a glance. And now, thanks to 7.0, you get a percentage there. If you're fighting a world boss and you don't have this on, you're going to be extremely confused by all the numbers that are just... or not the numbers, the colors that are being flown across the screen. Not across the screen, but across... It's just... Look, you know what I'm talking about, man. World bosses right now are weird and confusing, all right? Make sure that you have health stats shown. That way you can actually understand what the heck is going on. Maybe you don't need mana, but at least having, health stats up is really, really important. There's a couple other things, too. Showing the target's cast bar is good, because you'll know what what the target is actually casting. Showing the target of a target's cast bar, I don't even think works. I might be wrong on that, I never really notice it, but if your target is targeting somebody else that's casting something, then you should be able to see actually, right there what they're doing. That's just some more information that can exist, and it's just a little checkbox you can click to get it. Go back to here. Show buff duration actually just shows you visually on buff bars or debuff bars kind of like is there a minute left or something of that sort. If there's like 30 seconds left, it'll count down. I think that's on by default, and generally it's a lot better. Now these here are really good for information overall. Show combat effect and tooltips, and show, or combo effects and tooltips, and damage breakdown is really, really important. If I hover over right now, you actually see there is literally no combos for anything shown because I've unchecked it. And I think it is checked by default. So make sure that you have that so that you get more information about how combos work between different abilities. And damage breakdown is really good too, because right now you'll see that, oh, it says I have 20-24 melee damage on a Blade Flurry. But if you actually have it checked, you'll see why it is 20-24. And you'll see that here it's 0 coefficient, just base amount of damage plus 124% of my melee attack. So it tells you a little bit more about how this stuff is calculated. Again, it's more information when you're looking through different things, making a build, and trying to understand the game, as well as, like, you know, how combos and debuffs and stuff work. And now you'll see that I also have combos listed there at the bottom of each skill. And again, that's because I had this thing checked, this guy. I don't actually know what item creation details are. I believe that's just who made an item. It shows their name at the bottom. I mean, whatever, it's extra information, right? And then this interaction tooltip location, I don't think has ever worked for me. Where, you know, you can hover over something and it shows something near the cursor there. It says Prosperous Nuian Base, versus showing at the bottom right of the screen, which, oh, it does work, huh? I think a long time ago it didn't work, so now it shows on the bottom right of my screen that I'm hovering over. I don't know, this is up to you, but generally I keep it right near the cursor so that I can see better, but anyways, so that's a thing. There's a tutorial you can open and close whenever. There's insufficient bag space alert, just to let you know once you're close to filling up the bag. There's show chat bubbles, which if you're a streamer you might not want open because people can run in and say some bad things. And then there's view frame rate, which I use because I like to see my frame rate. Down here we have a lot of those things from the combat log, so I always keep it on all, I keep the distance at highest, and I like to see all my quests on the entire map, which is what Unlimited does. When I turn this on, you'll see that I'll have quests all over the map, and I can see it globally as well. If I just go over to Gwynedd Forest, I can see all the quests that are there too. So these are things that I talked about in a different video too. So I'm not going to go over them too much right now, but you can definitely go check out the combat log video if you have not set up your own combat log, which is like literally one of the most powerful learning tools in the game, and you also get to use it just for anything. It's not just a learning tool, you get to actually see what happens, you know, in real time in combat. Show combo skills is a new thing, kind of. It's like, I think a 6.5 or 6.0 thing, where you can actually display or choose to display what combos appear on your quick bar, and they glow when you have a combo available. So for example, if I stealth, oh, this doesn't work now. They broke it because now they put the combos or like the buffs inside of this box, and now they don't show that you can do a combo. Whatever. Anyways, this is some stuff that you can look at. There's some descriptions on how this works, and generally it's pretty helpful to have enabled, so I have it on myself. Functionality, okay, so this is where things get a little bit more technical, at least this top part here. This bottom part isn't that useful. So in combat, there's a lot of different ways to move around, to deploy skills, to deploy a glider, to dash. All of the stuff is adjusted here, and this is going to be based on your own personal play style, okay? Click to move and auto move to skill range is actually something that I think most people don't enable, and what it does is when you click somewhere, your character will move there, okay? It's a little weird because if you accidentally left click on the wrong target, you'll just start moving to that location, so it's like, oh, I want to target this bodyguard, but oh, I just missed it a little bit. It's a little bit confusing and annoying. The nice part is, however, is if you actually want to use an ability, and you can't, because you're out of range, your character will automatically walk to that range first before using the ability. Again, most people don't use this, but it is an option that's available in-game. You can mess around with it if you want. Key tap skill trigger. Actually, I don't know what that does. Key tap skill trigger. I think that just means that you can push a button and the skill will go off right away. No, everything feels... Oh, why am I auto moving? I actually have no idea what that does. It's not something that I think about because it's already automatically on when you start the game. Like, start up the game for the first time. Anyways, so there's a couple other things here that are really nice. Auto select target when using skills. If you use an offensive skill, it'll just pick the nearest target if you have none selected and use it against them. Very, very good if you're just trying to, like, you know, somebody tries to gank you and you just really need to frantically push a button to, like, CC them or something. You can do this right away and it'll just select them automatically. Just be careful not to select the wrong target, because it'll go with whatever target is closest to you. Skill deployment location is nice, because what this essentially does, if you have it enabled, you can, so the way it works is if you have a skill bound to a key, like I have blink on tab, what it normally does is when you have it disabled, you have to push the skill once for it to appear on the location, and you push the skill again, or you press left click to target and designate that location, okay? So right now I push tab, and then I can push tab again to pick the location, or I can left click to go and teleport there. However, if you have this enabled, wherever your mouse is, whenever you push that button, it'll just immediately pop it off. So if I'm within range, so let's say I'm not within range, right? Let's say I'm hovering my mouse over next to this wall. It'll tell me that the target is too far, right? But if I bring it closer and I push the button, without having to actually finish designating, one button press is one action right away, and it's much quicker to get things off. You just have to make sure that your mouse is actually selected over the place where you want it to actually go, right? God's Whip is nice with this because you can just hover over, where you want the God's Whip to hit, and it'll just, you're just spamming the button to make it happen very, very quickly. But again, something that a lot of people might have missed. These two are kind of self-explanatory. Double tap to dash. If you're double tapping W, you dash. That's what that is. Double tap for glider. Again, if you have, jump on space like most people tend to have, double tapping space will make your glider come out. Just whatever glider is equipped on your character. If you have none, then it won't work. I have this off actually because I use all of my gliders with hotkeys, right? And I do this myself. I don't want to accidentally use my glider at any point in time, so I make sure that I do it a little bit more efficiently that way. Auto-align for plants and livestock, auto-align for furniture items. This is new stuff, kind of, as of, I think, like 5.5 or something before 6.0, that just lets you more efficiently place, like plants and livestock and all the things in your farms, and placing furniture as well. So these are just options you can use for your personal planting and cosmetic needs, right? There's some other stuff here too. Low health warning, which makes like the heartbeat come up when you're at low health and the side of the screen turns red. You've got camera shake effects you can turn off. The quest direction arrows that, they kind of appear under your character if you have a bunch of quests selected. Always show the auto loot window. Some people have this on just so they see it visually on their screen. I tend to have it off because it's annoying. And this is a big one that a lot of people also don't know. If there's some jerk that's trying to push people through their portals, which is very easy to do, and you don't want to bait yourself into doing it, you can always disable travel through other players' portals so that somebody doesn't accidentally throw you through their portal. I usually turn this on if somebody's actively going around with like a farm cart pushing people into a portal. I'll just turn it on and then go AFK if I need to or whatever. But usually I have it off, obviously, because I don't want to have to go to the options to turn it on and off every single time I need it, right? Usually I go through other players' portals anyways, but it's something that exists. You can also hide that optimization button so you don't accidentally click it. If you ever are in combat and you don't want to accidentally push it and have everything lag, you can just disable it like I do. And then default player appearance is something that actually a lot of players do in PvP. When there's tons and tons of numbers and you don't want to lag as much, default player appearances makes everybody look the same, okay? It doesn't load any more costumes or anything. Allies look like this. Enemies look with like a red armor. Neutral, I guess, would also be blue. Actually, I don't know what neutral looks like. Probably blue. I don't know. I have no idea. But it makes everybody look the same with terms of like textures, right? Textures and models are all very basic. What's kind of nice is that while you have this up, where is it? Functionality. While you have this up, you can actually change the maximum number of displayed players up to 200. It's the only way you can do that. If you turn that off, 100 is the maximum there. So that's something you can also do to be a little bit more efficient in like Halcyona or just big fights or whatever, where you need to see more than 100 players. You can actually do that, and it helps a little bit. I tend to just have it, off all the time because I still understand who people are visually too. So it's a personal preference, but sometimes I'll change it up to default appearances if I need to see 200 people at a time, right? There's also all these auto declines if somebody's spamming duels, or if somebody's spamming trays, or jury invites you're bored of. You can turn all those off and on. There's ignoring whispers if you don't want to have to deal with somebody spamming you for a little while, and there's a disable chat filter as well, which I believe is automatically disabled, so you have to check it when you log in if you want to hear people swearing. Other than that, Oh yeah, and then there's of course the shortcut bars that I think most people, I hope most people use all of them. You can use all of these shortcut bars. You can enable them here. Eventually we'll have a 5th shortcut bar too. And you can set all the shortcut bars here in terms of hotkeys. So all that stuff is done through the hotkeys section. Now we've talked about hotkeys in the past, so that's a totally different video. I'm not going to go into that right now. You can always go check those out. They're on, like somewhere in my YouTube like playlists. There's all of these like guides, videos, and highlights videos. Everything is kind of under there, so you can take a look at those. I think for the most part that covers this. I want to talk a little bit more about UI setup. I know Epic, I can see you talking there. I know the ArcPass thing was a big deal that happened lately, but I still want to put out information to help people have fun and enjoy the game more. So that's what I do, right? I have fun with other people have fun too. So the last thing I want to talk about is just kind of UI setup. I'm not going to talk too much about this because this is super personal preference, okay? But the default UI has like health bars in the top left of your screen and the top of your screen for enemies. You have like, the quick bars are all like kind of on top of each other. So you can press shift click to move stuff around on your screen, shift and left click to move things. We actually have this new bar with the buffs on it. You can actually move it. You just have to shift left click like slightly over it and then you can move it to wherever you want, right? And same thing for other health bars and things. You can just move them around however you will with shift left click, okay? A lot of people that you've seen kind of like at streaming and such that have played for years, you'll notice that a lot of the UI elements are kind of centered around the middle of the screen. And this is because you don't want to have to look all the way to the top left of your screen to see your health or debuffs or buffs or whatever, right? It's a little bit too far away for your eyes to have to move back and forth. And even me, I have my raid and party over here kind of in the middle area of my screen because I want to more quickly move my mouse to, click somebody specific or to see what's going on. It just helps with efficiency with like, your eyes moving different parts of the screen or your mouse moving to different parts of the screen as well. So I like to sort of put everything sort of in the center here. And since my quick bar is down here at the bottom middle, I like to put the health bars there too so that when I'm looking in battle, all of my information is down all in the same place, right? Combat log is here, so I can see combat log. I have chat here. I have all the quick bars and things. I have all the health bars of everything. Even like when I go and glide, I have this right here, which I think is like the default location anyways, but I kind of move around sometimes. Everything is down in one spot, and it helps like, if I'm trying to get some information, I can get it all at a glance, and I can even see things out of the corner of my eye. If I'm looking at health bar, I can see my skills and what's on cooldowns and such. Or if I'm looking at the enemy's health or their buffs or debuffs, I can see my own as well. So center things, if you make things easier for yourself to play so that you can do things faster naturally. I think that's mostly what I wanted to go over with UI anyways. There's some other things too. You can change like the size of your map. Mine tends to be on the medium. It's all personal preference. I play in 4K resolution, so all of my UI elements are a little bit tinier than it looks for most people. So you may have to adjust your screen, a little bit different based on your own preferences, but know that these options exist and that you can actually mess around with them. Also that there's some elements on your screen you cannot change the location of, such as the location of the map. And then one more thing is you could actually lock windows. Lock these particular chat boxes. So after you've kind of finished moving them to wherever you want, you can lock it so that you cannot move them by accident. So that's something else you can do to sort of help you out. You just right click here, you can lock them. And I think if you lock it, it should work for everything. Maybe not. Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, you kind of have to lock each individual one to make that work. Right? Yeah. Okay, now I have to make sure everything's locked on mine. Yeah, alright, they are. All good. I think that's it. That's kind of it's probably, this whole video kind of ran a little bit longer than I thought that it would, but hopefully a little bit helpful for you in your customization. So yeah, thanks everybody.